What message do you want to give about public bathrooms in our country?
They're dirty, they're nasty.
There's like pee everywhere.
Covered in feces.
It's a rough situation.
I went in like a diner.
A Starbucks, a random restaurant.
Nah, you can't come in here, sorry.
Customers only.
I would have to buy something just to use the bathroom.
It's absurd.
Hi, my name's Yara, and I have a show that's kind of about food.
This thing is massive.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna put one of these in my mouth.
So why am I talking to people about bathrooms?
Public bathrooms, public bathroom, public bathrooms.
In the US, the lack of public bathrooms is a really big problem. So a lot of us end up relying on privately owned food and drink establishments for our bathroom needs.
Do you guys have a bathroom, any chance? No bathroom.
And the public bathrooms that do exist aren't,
So the inside of this stall is not great.
Despite having the world's third largest population and the world's largest economy, the United States is all the way down here, tied with Botswana, Poland, and a few others for having about 8 public bathrooms per 100,000 people.
What message would you want to give about New York City's public bathroom situation?
It sucks. Don't come here if you have to piss. So
Given how much we rely on private businesses for toilets, access to their bathrooms isn't guaranteed, especially if you're not a paying customer, or if you don't look a certain way.
2 black men sitting at a table inside this Starbucks and arrested.
So why is it that America lags so far behind so much of the world when it comes to public bathrooms? And what, if anything, is being done to change that? I went deep inside America's toilets.
We've inhaled a lot of urine today.
And its local governments.
This represents a failure of government and a failure of willpower.
To get to the bottom of this.
Apparently, there was a massive dump that was taken.
Of the top 100 largest cities in America, New York, the city I live in, ranks 93rd in terms of public bathrooms per capita. So that's where our story starts. I headed to Washington Square Park to ask New Yorkers what they thought of their city's public bathroom situation.
What is your view on New York City's public bathrooms?
It sucks.
They're bad.
Terrible.
They're dirty.
They're nasty.
They're absolutely disgusting.
I think they're gross and will try to hold it for as long as I can until I reach a point of oh God, I'm gonna die.
Do you think there's enough of them?
No, there's not enough of them.
Quantity, I don't think there's enough.
Way too few.
Practically non-existent.
There's not a lot of actual functioning, safe, usable public restrooms.
And the ones that do exist are usually really dirty.
What are you up to?
We're making a documentary about public bathrooms in New York.
That's cool. I think that they should be kept very clean so they don't catch any dangerous diseases.
Excellent point.
There's a lack of thought to those with disabilities. It's not very accessible to those in need.
I've been homeless, on and off since 2014.
Have you ever been denied access to a public bathroom in New York City?
I've been shirtless and sockless for the past week or two now, and no shirt, no shoes, no service.
What's your go-to bathroom?
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
I'll probably try to find a Starbucks.
McDonald's.
I'm gonna look for a barbershop or a salon.
Have you ever had a public bathroom horror story?
I remember New Year's Eve.
I was in Central Park.
I was on the subway. I really had to go.
Could not find a bathroom anywhere.
And I needed really to use the bathroom, and you know how hard it is to get after midnight.
What did you do?
I was like,
I came off the subway and I'm like, okay, the first restaurant, I'm just gonna go in. They're like, nope, you gotta pay. Go to another one, same thing. I go to stores, cafes, and no one would let me in.
I ended up going to the bathroom on the street, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of us, that's something that people don't talk about. If there are no bathrooms and it's after a certain hour, what do you do?
I mean, access to bathrooms should be readily available and a right to everyone.
I wish that we could kind of follow what Europe does and get some paid bathrooms.
There's no money or infrastructure, no one cares. And I think it is ultimately decriminalize poor and unhoused people.
The United States public bathroom system is kind of helter-skelter because it's not 24 hours, because it's not really ran very well as far as, cleaning-wise, you know what I mean? They're doing what they can.
To the mayor and to the authorities, it's not civilized. It's not civilized not to have bathrooms around accessible to the people.
So what's the deal with New York? In my research, I came across this report. New York City has only about 1,100 publicly accessible bathrooms. That means for the 8.5 million official residents of New York, there's only one bathroom for every 7,700 New Yorkers. And even the 1,100 bathrooms that do exist in the city sometimes look like this.
There was human fecal matter on top of the toilet seat, or near it.
Or this.
Holy God, okay. It is filled with many things that should not be in a toilet. Well, I guess those should be in a toilet, but...
Good God, it's generally not a pretty sight.
So we've happened upon an automated public toilet. The fumes are very, very strong. This is kind of flooded and it smells awful. It looks really nice on the outside, but the smell is putrid.
I should say, though, there are some good ones. There's even a TikToker who keeps track of them.
The lack of accessible sanitary and public bathrooms in New York City has just become an unspoken truth, but we need to start talking about it.
My favorite is the one at Bryant Park.
Well, this is the first bathroom we have had to wait in a line for.
But that may be because it's managed by a private company.
That is by far one of the most amazing public bathrooms I have ever experienced. It felt like a hotel bathroom.
They have the little plastic cover on the toilet seat that like articulates. It is the pinnacle of human excrement release.
Still, no matter how you cut it, New York is very, very behind. And we're not even taking into account thousands of taxi drivers and delivery people who rarely have a dependable option.
There's a lack of public bathrooms. It's very hard for us,
Right.
We don't find any bathroom.
There's no place for the taxi drivers.
I go one day bathroom, they give me ticket for $150.
$400 ticket?
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's nearly 50,000 homeless people in New York who have no place to go, especially when the few public bathrooms that do exist close after dark. Bathrooms are tied to a basic biological human function in all of us. So why are they so sorely lacking in America? I reached out to a ton of experts to try to get to the bottom of this.
Hello. Thanks again for doing this.
Here's what I learned. Until the 1800s, most bathrooms in the world were actually public, or at least shared. Private bathrooms were really a luxury that only rich people could afford. And by bathroom, we're talking outhouses. Working class people in New York often shared one outhouse with a couple dozen neighbors. Of course, this lack of bathrooms also meant public urination.
This is when some cities began installing public urinals intended for the men.
As people started seeing the connection between human waste and diseases like cholera and typhoid, more public bathrooms just made sense. Bar bathrooms were also a thing back then, but for anti-alcohol activists who were part of the temperance movement, public bathrooms meant fewer men drinking and peeing in bars. And as the government moved to ban the public consumption and sale of alcohol in the 20s, US cities rushed to build even more public bathrooms. But things took a dramatic turn in the 60s and 70s. In New York, the city's government nearly went bankrupt, so it enacted harsh budget cuts, specifically targeting public services. Public bathrooms cost a lot of money to maintain, so many were just shut down. And this became a trend throughout the country. In the South, public bathrooms were twice as expensive, since Jim Crow laws had mandated separate but equal facilities for white and black Americans. In big cities, public opinion had shifted against public bathrooms due to stories about crime, vandalism, drug use, and sexual encounters taking place inside.
And that's when you began to see the private sector filling in where the public sector was not providing for the public.
And we see a wave of privatization and the elimination of a lot of government-provided services during Ronald Reagan's presidency, right?
There's a large, long-term public movement toward dialing back public services.
So you were soon left with privately owned department stores, food and drink establishments, and gas stations providing this public service. But privatizing bathrooms means you really only serve certain people.
There's also a class dimension to this. There's a judgment being made by the business owner about whether you deserve to use the bathroom.
And what about the paid public bathrooms that we used to have in the 70s? Europe has a lot of those. Well, get this. In 1970, there were actually over 50,000 coin-operated bathrooms in the US. 10 years later, they almost all disappeared. So what happened?
But they were pay restrooms. Well, you had to pay to use the stalls, but you didn't have to pay to use the urinals. In the 70s, a sort of growing feminist awareness led people to see this as very sexist. There was a feminist movement called the Committee to End Pay Toilets that was then instrumental in having protests and changing laws in order to end pay toilets to make restrooms free for everybody. But that turned public restrooms just into a really high cost for a city. The unintended consequence of that was public restrooms basically began to disappear for everybody.
And in many US cities and states today, pay toilets are still illegal. So back to New York in 2022. I thought to myself, for such a massive problem, is New York doing anything? The answer is yes. Well, sort of. In 1990, a group of homeless people filed a lawsuit against New York City over limited public bathrooms. The lawsuit drew a lot of attention. In 1992, the city moved to install 6 sidewalk toilets with plans to order another 100. But then it all got bogged down by bureaucracy and competing interests. In 2006, the city finally ordered 20 automated public toilets, APTs. But for some reason, only 5 were installed.
This is an example of government incompetence, inefficiency, and bureaucratic obstacles.
That's Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. He's teamed up with City Council member Rita Joseph to pass a bill requiring these 2 agencies to carry out a study. That study would identify 1 location in each New York City zip code where they build a brand new public bathroom.
Whichever party you belong to, using the bathroom doesn't have any political affiliation.
But we are going to force this issue onto the agenda with this legislation. You are not a New Yorker if you haven't been caught out there, not able to find a bathroom. Other cities around the country and world have figured this out. It's not that complicated.
It's a human rights issue. I've lived abroad and studied abroad, and there's always been public bathrooms whenever I go to these European cities. We need to do the same model.
And then we headed inside for a city council hearing.
This is like the staircase at the Titanic.
Not the most exciting thing. But as I sat there, it was clear that everyone agreed this was an important issue. So how does New York and the US at large dig itself out of this problem? Well, obviously building more bathrooms is one answer. Yes, they're pricey. One estimate holds that each new traditional public bathroom could cost New York as much as $5 million. But there's also cheaper, high-tech options that are emerging.
The Portland Loo.
The Portland Loo.
Portland, Oregon is another one.
The Portland Loo is a street-side bathroom you can place anywhere. It's got an open-air design, and there's blue light to prevent people from identifying their veins, which, well, yeah. And then there are other solutions, like a sort of private-public partnership that some European cities have, where they pay private businesses in exchange for them opening their bathrooms up to the public. But relying on the private sector means you can't guarantee this basic service to every single person.
Today I went to about like 25 different businesses, mostly restaurants.
Do you guys have a bathroom? Do you guys have a bathroom? Do you guys have a bathroom?
For the most part, they let me in to use their bathrooms.
Go here and then make a right. Amazing, thank you.
But there is something that was happening which kind of threw me off a little bit, which was that every time I asked them if I could use their bathroom, they would kind of take a little moment to like look at me and then assess whether I'm like worthy. And that got me thinking about like, if I did not look the way I did, if I didn't talk the way I did, if I didn't dress the way that I did, if my skin color was different. These sorts of things may have had an impact on their decision to let you use the bathroom. The whole point of having public services is to ensure that everyone can use that service without any discrimination whatsoever. It's not enough for something to just work for most people. It has to work for everyone.
What do people who are critical of this move? I can't imagine who would not want
There is one narrative out there.
Please tell me.
Which is that this will attract homeless people. I completely reject that. If someone is unhoused and living in the street, if they have no facility, they're going to go in the open, which no one wants. And therefore, we're charging forward for the good of everybody.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. So this lack of public bathrooms isn't just an issue that's exclusive to the US. It's something that affects many countries and many cities around the world. So what's it like where you live? Is it hard to find a public bathroom? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to slam that subscribe button.